So why should you focus on cloud business today? And that's your starting point, to be very honest. So if you are interested today to know what is the way to build a cloud strategy, the first thing I think you should know why you should get into this business, right? You need to get the big picture, and we are here to help you to get that big picture. In terms of numbers, there are a lot of numbers out there. The recent number is IDC's entire regional prediction for 2016. It was $530 million for Meta region, which is Middle East, Turkey, and Africa region. And that's a big money which we are talking about only on public cloud. Private cloud will add up to another millions of dollars out there. So potential is immense. It's growing at multiple rates. It is growing at a rate where on-premise revenues growth is declining on month or year over year. I'm not saying that business is declining, the growth is declining. So if you are growing 20% over year, 20% year over year, now that 20% has brought down, is down to 8% maybe or 5%. So it's coming down as a growth. So the growth is not there. However, the cloud business is growing consistently over 22% in the region as per IDC. And that's what you want to be there, right? And that is going to get accelerated. Another big reason for you to be in cloud business is to understand that entire region is suffering from an economical pressure with respect to oil. And that is important for you to understand that if that pressure keeps continuously be there on your customer's head, it is going to impact their buying ability. It is going to impact their decision-making time period. So the deals which were supposed to close in 2 months or 3 months now is closing in 6 months. The deals which were supposed to close in a month and now it's taking 3 months. And the reason is cash. People are holding on the cash, and that is what we really want you to look at. The guys who were happily giving big orders to you on infrastructure now are trying to find ways to hold that money. And one of the things which is a practical reason that you should consider pushing cloud is because you can get that order moving on a subscription model, which is going to be a fraction of cost what they could invest on an on-premise business. And this is why you should get into the cloud business today, right? Shifting revenue model, right? This is an important slide for me. I always love to bring this up, and it is very clear that this is the way to look at how do you get started on cloud, right? The situation today is that the on-premise business growth is declining, but it's not going to touch zero. It's going to decline. But on the other hand, cloud business is growing very fast. So how do you start? You cannot stop your on-premise business and just start your cloud business. That doesn't work. We're not telling you that. We're trying to tell you is, hey, keep your on-premise business and start your cloud business with a small investment or a small focus, like putting one guy as a salesperson dedicated for this business and then grow. And that's what is the right point, because a point will come where your cloud revenues will become more than the on-premise business, and that is what is very, very key to understand and notice. The next is the recurring business model, right? So this is probably the biggest reason I found that makes a lot of sense to a lot of business owners is the recurring revenue business model. In on-premise business, what happens is when the year end comes, January 1st starts, you're back to square one. You have to build the entire business from scratch again for that year, and you have to put the entire amount of effort again from that point in time. However, when you are talking about cloud business, it's a recurring business model, right? All the business you bought last year turns out to be a renewal opportunity there, and then you keep getting the renewals. And this means you have a better control on your business and customers. This means you have a lot more opportunity to go and own the customer now. You can truly say, I own my customer, because he is now bind it to you to continue to do business with him, right? So that is what is the key thing. You also get to the point where you can start doing an upsell cross-sell, which means because now you own the customer, you own the relationship, you are now willing to go to the next level saying that, hey, you bought one technology from me, you've taken one solution, what about this, what about that? And that is what typically it means. So those were a couple of important reasons why you should get into cloud business, and then those are very important fundamental reasons. I did not wanted to talk a lot about numbers, but then that you can find it on the net. But then this is the reasons why you should get it. The next is I want to talk a little bit about cloud economics, business economics. Well, this is important. Sorry, this is important from getting into. So when you say now I've got to a point where I know why I should get into this business, but before you get into this point where you start building a strategy, I really think you should understand the basics of economics of the business of cloud, right? So we'll go through some of these slides. So cloud is a services business. Cloud is not a product selling business. Please understand this very, very clear. And why I keep saying this is a service business. If you go to the fundamentals of cloud, the fundamental building block of cloud is SaaS, PaaS, and IaaS, right? What does each of them stand for? SaaS stands for software as a service. PaaS stands for platform as a service. IaaS stands for infrastructure as a service. It's a service. It is not a product. It is not a license. Do not sell cloud as a license or a product. You will never be able to sell it. You need to factor in that this is a service business, which means whatever customer wants will be a service which will be priced either per user or by consumption based on monthly or yearly rates. Now that is what is the services business, but that is not just limited to the product which you're using as a service. The whole bunch of revenue model and profitability comes from your own services, which means by just changing the software from an on-premise exchange to an email as an example, customer is not just going to adopt cloud, right? He needs to be told what to do. He needs to be told how to do. We need to handhold him to move the data. We need to support them because everything is now not in their control. It is in the cloud's control. So we need to make them aware of things, what they need to know when they are moving to cloud, right? And there's a lot of opportunity on services when it comes to cloud. So that's what. So if you see the dollar value, every $10 or every $100 of product subscription per year can get you double the amount of services which you can engage with that customer. So every $2 of subscription on the first year can generate a potential of $1 of potential services. So that's a huge number, right? That's something which I really want you to understand. Profitability is not coming from margin. The profitability is coming from the services here. Okay. So how does the cloud business looks like? The cloud business typically, the way you should see it is if you're in an on-premise business, yes, the revenue is big, the chunk of money comes in big, but then when it comes to cloud, that entire thing is broken down into multiple months, and it is now looked as a monthly or a yearly subscription model, which does make a lot of difference in terms of the way you see the business model itself. It's a recurring business model, right? So you have every month is a good month for you. So that is what we are trying to say here. So there is no way that you'll have a slowdown in Ramadan. No, every month, once the customer starts using service, the example I like to give always is your telephone bills, right? So do you think that you are not in a position to pay your telephone bills in the month of Ramadan? Absolutely no. Business slows down, but then that doesn't mean that business stops, right? The decision making slows down, but then once you get a contract signed, once you start the customer on a monthly billing model, every month you know that that cash is going to come and you need to run the business. It's a much better model. And the other matrix which I would like to highlight you to is the following words, right? So these are things which I strongly believe that you should be familiar with if you want to get into cloud business. And if you're not familiar with these words, then that is where the starting point comes in before getting into strategy. ACV, it's a word which can either break or make your cloud business, right? So if imagine you have a sales force who is doing solid numbers as a revenue on-premise or an annual contract, and suddenly you have a situation where you have been asked to sell a monthly billing model. Now, why would your salesperson go and spend a lot of time or probably equal time of energy to go and convince someone who is trying to buy an annual one, and why should he go and position them to say, hey, don't buy annual, go for monthly? The salesperson doesn't get commission on that. And more, the problem lies is that most of the organization, the sales team are compensated on the billing amount. Now, this is where the problem comes in. If the billing amount is the factor of your decision making for performance, you will never be able to successfully build a cloud business. The reason is, if you do that, imagine towards the end of the year, if the guy is trying to pick up a deal of, let's say, 100 seats, and it could be a big deal if he's selling it under the annual price commitment. What's going to happen is he's going to make a decision between say, hey, you know what, I'm going to push it under annual business model. The simple reason is I will be only recognized only for the last 2 months if I'm picking up the order in November. If I go with monthly billing, because that is the only amount of bills which is going to be generated in those 2 months, and the rest will fall into the next year. Now, if you go with the ACV approach, if the salesperson gets X, and it's $1,000 monthly billing for a customer in November, he should be recognized for $12,000 in that month, and he should move on to the next customer. That's ACV. We have MRR, which is monthly recurring revenue. We have ARPU, which is average revenue per user. And we have COA, which is cost of acquisition per user. We have churn rate, which is the number of subscription or users lost per month. And then we have in revenue streams, which is called new and renewal. So if you're not tracking the renewal business separately, then something is wrong, because you cannot make a lot of money on renewals. If your sales team is focusing a lot on picking up a renewal deals, then they are not doing a good job on trying to find a real true customer who can give you lots of services money. It's very important that you track new and renewal business. So that was my fundamentals to keep the core discussion of building this cloud services business model, was that you should have these basic understanding, and then only you can build it on top of it. So let's get into that. What is the strategy you need to have to build a cloud services business? The first thing which I would stress a lot is on practice, which means you need to have a cloud practice. You treat it as a practice. And what does practice mean? Practice really means that you have to invest well before it actually starts picking up in the market, right? What does that mean? You might have to build the entire business practice at a point where there is no revenue or zero revenue coming from customers on cloud. You have to invest in people in advance. You have to focus on how you're going to run this business, right? The first piece is having the right set of cloud product portfolio. And I want to go back to the fact that, hey, what's your strategy, right? So the strategy is that I'm going to go and put a lot of solutions out there, like infrastructure solutions, security solutions, rather than really talking about products there. I just don't want to say, hey, I have Office 365 and Azure and this and that. I would say I have messaging and collaboration, I have business apps, I have infrastructure and cloud and backup. So that's the portfolio I want you to look, and then that portfolio will start making sense, because you're going to go and add more and more vendors and products into each of the categories. The cloud business is going to be empty if you do not build a services arm with that, because that's where the bulk of money comes in, right? So I keep saying that if you want to sell a product which is just $5 or $10 a month, the only way to make money is through services, right? You cannot make a huge money through the margins of the product. So it is very, very critical that you start building a services arm or a division or a practice. And here are the listed services: consultation, implementation, migration, training, change management, and development and support. I'm not saying you have to do all of them, but you can get started with some of them. And finally, the practice should include of focusing on building an intellectual property. Intellectual property, just example is this, but then intellectual property could be a process, it could be a document, it could be a calculator, it could be something which can be unique to you and nobody else can replicate very quickly, and you can make a very unique value proposition of a competition there. And that is what I really, really want you to focus on. Do not consider that it has to be a software product as an IP. It can be anything. It can be a practice, right? So this is the first thing which we need to factor in when it comes to cloud strategy. You need to go and build cloud practice, and this will call for additional investment in the initial days and months and years, and then the real fruits will start coming out. The next is building the right team, right? You have to find the right team to run this business, because if you do not get the right team members, you are going to definitely not be able to justify the investment made on cloud, because it's difficult. It's pretty difficult for an existing salesperson who has been selling server storage and on-premise pitch to go and suggest a cloud solution to his customers, and that's going to be a challenge for him. So it's better to get freshers who are really fresh. You can teach them whatever you want, and then they do a better job than anybody else. Having said that, I'm not saying that you cannot start the cloud business without your existing. It is, but then you need to identify who is that person in the sales team or business development team who is interested and can do this kind of transformation for himself and the organization. So here are some of the quick tips which we want to share with you. The first one is hire freshers, right? So this is very, very important. If you hire freshers, it does make a difference uh, to a lot of things, because they are fresh. They come from a background where they want to prove things. They want to really uh, learn faster and so on. So that is why hiring fresh from an engineering or technical background will really kick your business off when it comes to cloud. And they will not cost you a lot, right? They're also equally hungry to learn new technologies. And there are many case studies and success stories to prove the fact that a young team or a fresh team does a better job on cloud than a very highly experienced person. Hire college interns, hire Microsoft student partners, keep the average age of 27, 28, because that's a good age, right? If you start your cloud business with a very experienced person, you may not be able to justify the entire cost, and he may not be that flexible as you want them to be flexible. And then put them into a right manager. Most of us are not really excited and capable of running and managing a team of a very young team. For example, if you are in your 30s and you're suddenly managing a 21-year-old team member, there is going to be some gaps in the way they perceive it and a line manager perceives. So having a right manager on top of them is really, really important, and that is going to change the way this young team can take the whole business forward. So building the cloud team, that is the next thing as part of my strategy thing is you need to have a focus, right? So you cannot just say that, hey, I'm going to add cloud into my vendor portfolio and from tomorrow the team starts selling. That's not going to happen. What will happen is they will start resisting, existing team will start a lot of resistance on moving to this model. And that's why you want to have one dedicated person where you can change your entire KPIs for that person and then tell him, you know what, your day-in, day-out job is just cloud. At the moment you run cloud and non-cloud together, it will be a running issue. But having said that, you can always get started. The idea is to how soon you can get to a point where you can have one dedicated person. So the trial team is about lead generation, sales, and technical. However, the minimum requirement is sales and technical, which I've mentioned some of the criteria which they should be given in terms of KPIs and their key roles. So that was when you get started. Once you get started, the next thing would be to how do I grow this business, right? The growing this business is not the fact that you add more people in the same function, but you add more people into a different function, right? So the trio team now can become a hunter's team. They focus only on net new business. Whereas you can have a two-person team to grow the business next year, which is going to go and focus on renewals and upsell and cross-sell. So in other sales language, you are looking at hunters and farmers, and they all need to be supported by a back office doing invoicing and other things, including sharing the best practices or marketing details with support. So that's typically when it is point to grow your business, right? Now that you have understood how do we get started, we really want you to understand what all functions of cloud is required for you to build a thriving, successful cloud business, right? And what we have now, what you're looking at is a slide is where the entire functions of a company, of a cloud services focused company, should or can be in one of these buckets. The first one is a business development function, which includes skills like lead generation, sales, and consultation. Next is deployment and support. We're talking about here as provisioning, implementation, migration, training, and support services. This can be done by one person. This can be done by outside person. And then eventually when you come to a point of 100 customers, 200 customers, you will need all of these functions through one or more person in the organization to do this. And then finally comes is the finance and accounts, where you have to define the processes, who's going to do what in terms of order processing, in terms of additional license management, renewal management, billing and collection, and then invoice consolidation and reporting. So these are some of the areas which will be required from an attention point of view, if not today, but then as you grow your business, right? So that is the whole thing which you need to factor in. Compensation plans. I've spoken to so many partners in past few months, and then one of the biggest problem which we see is that the reason the salesperson doesn't focus on cloud is because his revenues are dropping. For him to get his commissions or incentives, he is focused on meeting his revenue targets, and the revenue targets drop significantly if you start looking at cloud on a monthly model. So for example, if you were to sell a server which was like $5,000 physical server, which will include the implementation and other things, now suddenly you're looking at that being dropped to an annual subscription of, let's say, $1,500. Now that goes further down if you break it up to a monthly billing model, where you are looking at a fact of a tune of $100 a month or $150 a month, which is much lower than what you could make as a revenue on the whole deal if you pick up a complete deployment services on on-premise. Now, the way to solve that approach problem is to move the contracts or move the recognition model to annual contract value, which means if your salesperson at any given point in time gets $1,000 of monthly subscription fees contract, you should reward that guy to in the tune of 12 months, which is the right thing to do, because he is now going to compare that achievement versus his on-premise business achievement, and that will be a fair comparison. So having this thing adopted into the team for giving them targets, for giving them the booking values, and also calculating the commission based on ACV is going to be the most important key thing for you to do. And do not forget this. This behavior will drive the change, right? So you need to change the behavior to really get to the point. So I just want to quickly run through the few slides where how does this look from a compensation model point of view in the same discussion. So if your annual target generally, right, so cloud is a conservative way of looking at it generally, but then we really want you to look at from Bolt's point of view. A good small business focused cloud reselling company can look at anything between 300K to 400K net new business on cloud. Now this net new business can be annual money, can be a monthly money. If it is monthly billing, then we are looking at really doing a multiplication of 12 months. So 300K is a reasonably good average target of net new business. 25% GP dollars is somewhere around $75,000 as a margin you're looking at. You've broken it down to each quarter based on the seasonality, and then each month will look like 25, 25, and 25. Now what we really see is here is when you do the breakup of this monthly target of $25,000, the salesperson really have to do a simple math of closing 140 seats of Office 365, for example, or in a plan of something. If the average price is $15 per user per month for whatever service, it could be a CRM, it could be help desk, it could be Office, it could be Dropbox or anything. This, because it's 140 seats, it's $15, and you want to do a annual commit plan, you will really achieve the fact that with just 140 seats a month, net new partners a month, you will be looking at revenue of 15 into 140 into 12 months. You have to recognize the salesperson on a 12 months basis. Then only it will start making sense. Then comes monthly recurring revenue, which we are looking at a threshold of $2,100. So if you are able to do $2,100 on a monthly basis when you start talking to these customers, you are looking at a massive revenue which you can start looking at from an ACV point of view. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. We'll take the questions in middle. So what we recommend is best model for cloud commissions is to go for 70-30 kind of split for salary for the sales and business development function. 70% is a fixed salary, 30% will be on revenue or GP goals, and the third condition will be a minimum 80% achievement of the KPI and paid proportionally. So the revenue, the KPIs could be 300,000 on net new business, gross profit of $75,000, or the new business ACV, we are looking at again 100%. So this is the way you price yourself or your partners. Commissions for new business and retainer business for renewal business. This is important. You need to treat the business models completely two different ways, and then only you will be able to succeed in implementing that plan. So what's the other thing which you need to factor in from a cloud strategy point of view, which is if you have a customer which is a small business or a large business, what are you going to first go and approach them if you have a big portfolio of cloud? Our strong suggestion is to go and get the entry into the customer. Now that entry could be from any of the services. It could be from backup, it could be from Office, it could be from website and domain. And then you need to go with workloads which are easy to sell, and you can get maximum out of that engagement model with the customer when it comes to engaging them for the first time. So go and deploy one solution out of the new business from a low entry point and high demand. So most of the products you should consider as a first line, which is easy to sell. These are high in demand, which means the customer knows what he wants. Once you have got the client, the next thing I want you to consider is to do a renewal and upsell and cross-sell through a dedicated team who will talk about other addition solution onto this whole system, which will result in more business and revenue. And that's the right way to do it, because once you own the client, it is difficult for someone to switch to the another provider. So based on this, what's happening with cloud interest? This is a little old slide, but then it's still very valid and interesting. That if you see from the chart which I'm showing, individuals like you and me have the maximum interest in cloud in terms of usage. Then comes the business people who are closing sales, who are doing finance, who are doing this, not IT folks. So when you have those kind of users, they are also the top users of cloud from an interest point of view. And finally, if you see the IT department, that goes down. So IT department generally don't like the cloud business, and they typically resist. So what it really tells you is that you should go to business users. They will listen to you much better because they are really, really wanting to learn that. Go-to-market strategy should be to focus on private sector, focus on small business, medium business. That doesn't mean you don't focus on enterprise. You can, but then it's easier to go and sell a small business and medium business than a full large corporate. Look for multiple location companies. The easiest prospect for a cloud-based solution is to have a thing that when you look for a customer which has multiple locations, because multiple locations mean he has multiple collaboration problems, he has to have application access from different locations, and that is a good, decent customer to solve the problem using cloud. Field force companies, these are, what does this mean is if your customer has more than 30% of his staff always on the field move, then they will also run into the similar problems in terms of what needs to be used to solve the access to the system or cost effectiveness. And this is where cloud can go very well into those segments. So we'll talk a little bit about profitability and services in the next few slides. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. So what does it look like when it comes to cloud from an economics point of view? So cloud, as you can see from this slide, it's very, very direct that cloud will not become profitable from the day one. It will become profitable after a period of time, and that is very, very important thing to note, right? If you do not understand this and you expect profits to pour in from the day one, unlike in the on-premise business, that is why we say start from your existing business model and gradually move to the cloud. So the break-even point in this situation can be anything on the from second year or third year onwards, right? So you first invest in the first few years on the right people, on the right technology, which products to choose, and so on, and then you ask them to, you basically start going deeper into the accounts where you directly start seeing the break-even point and profitability. Same slide again, we can skip this. Cost of acquisition and return of investment, and this is why this graph looks true, and here is the justification for that. The justification for that is when you go to sell to the first customer a cloud service, you are not just making a sale of that thing, you are actually putting the fact that this customer is going to stay with you for a long time, because he has to have a very strong reason if he needs to switch a provider from the current one. And my experience is that once you have a good customer, you provide them more than one solution, you increase the stickiness. Right? Stickiness is just as simple as that you need to know what needs to be given to the customer so that it becomes very difficult for him to switch to another reseller for the same service. So if you look at this slide, cost of acquisition, which is in blue, the new business, that is very high on the first year, but then it disappears on the second and third year. You are not acquiring this customer again. You already acquired this customer. What's going to happen is the next year and the third year, you will continue to invest on the renewal and upsell business, which is you need to have a small focus to go and talk to these customers and say, you know what, hey, take this thing and we will ensure that you are benefited out of this. For example, if the customer has bought Office, you want to go and sell Azure, they have bought Azure, then you want to sell them CRM online, and so on. So you need to have a sequence of products which you can go back to the same customers every year. And that's a very small, significant amount of effort because of simple reason that it can straight be spoken to the right decision-making person, right? And you don't have to go around and around. So that's the whole idea about it. And the last gray color bar which you see is the return on investment. The first year you can be profitable on that deal, but then next year and third year, the real profitability comes out of that. Cash is king, very true. In cloud business, most of the vendors, they charge, uh, once again, sorry for that. So I was saying cash is king. So most of you can go and sign an annual contract or a quarterly contract with your clients, and they would end up paying that. And most of the vendors, including Ingram Micros, all vendors on cloud, would be billing you on a monthly basis, which means you can become cash flow positive. I'm not talking about profitability. You can become cash flow positive, which can help your business to grow faster. And that is the model of the cloud, right? So you want to check that. The last section which I want to quickly run through is building the cloud solutions and services. What does this mean? Don't, as I said, it's a services business. If you do not build your services portfolio, it's going to be a problem to become and justify the profit or profitability out of the cloud business. Otherwise, you'll always see it as a unit which doesn't make any profits or is making very low significant profit, but then it is high in demand in terms of cost and investment. So let's see what services you should be looking at. But before that, I want you to understand one thing is when you do services, I really want you to do services in a style, right? Many partners I've seen who just do not position their services with quality or professionalism in terms of selling or approach. Because if you are giving some service, don't give it for free. And most of them have got the habit of, hey, I'm going to give the service for free because other 10 people are going to give the service for free. That's not the thing. The guys who are going to give it for free, they're not going to do a full good job, right? So you know that. And this is why we say do a professional services approach where you really charge them by hours, charge them by days, charge them by efforts, and that's the right thing to do. So sell in style, implement it in style, and you can charge a premium to your customer. And the picture really talks about that, right? You just don't want to go to any tailor for your clothes. You want to go to the best of the guy, and even if he's charging you more, you still want to go and give him the order because you know that that thing, once it is ready, that clothes needs to fit in very well, right? So that's the whole idea about it, right? We really want you to do the services at a price. And it's not a rocket science for you to go and put a price. And customers will know that something which is expensive will be with quality, right? So keep in mind, and if you think services is not something which customers are willing to pay, I completely challenge you. You are the same people, we are the same people who go and pay for professional services on a daily basis, right? So we go to a doctor, we pay professional services. He's not giving us any product, he's giving his knowledge, right? He's doing a consultation for us. You go to a lawyer, he charges you professional services. Very simple. He's charging you for his time and consultation. Same thing, if you have an engineer who is dedicated, who is expert on cloud, to whom you're paying a salary, and if he is going and doing something to his customer, you need to charge your customer because you need to pay this guy and you need to make profit out of it. Do not give your services for free. So let's look into the things, what services you should sell when you're building a cloud. When you're building a cloud business, you should sell consultation services, you should be able to sell implementation services, you should be able to sell migration, training, change management, support, managed services. deployment, and many more. Yeah. But these are the most big 6 of them. I will not go in detail because we have a separate session which has already been done, and we will do it in future. There is a recording available on that, and you can go and check out on our website. But just to give you 2 examples, if it is consultation, you don't want to charge consultation on every product. Generally, consultation is good when it is PaaS or IaaS, because there people don't know how it works and how to get the solution done. So this is what we do typically from education point of view. We want to educate our partners that, hey, you want to target specific services to specific customers on a specific type of billing rate, right? So not everything can be sold or can be positioned in a way that you can go and charge anything. There has to be a reason and a structure to it. We recommend billing model for consultation on an hourly basis. How much you can charge easily $20 to $30. What you need to do, you need to have a questionnaire, what deliverables and so on, and who can do it. So we have a very detailed session on this, and I just wanted to give you the feel of what needs to be factored in when it comes to services. Another services could be an example, can be a migration services. Which solutions you need to go and focus on, how much to charge, do we charge on scope, do we charge on per user capacity, what to use, what not to use, what kind of documents I should present. And this is why the customer will pay you, right? So if you are going and saying, hey, I'll do 40 users of migration for free, how are you going to do it for free, right? Somebody has to pay the bills. Sometimes you have to use a tool. Sometimes you have to do a prerequisite check. Someone has to go and touch the configuration of the customer server. That requires time and effort, right? Why should you give it for free? I just don't understand it, right? So most of the partners, first of all, they fear from services. And I can tell you, it's not a rocket science. It's pretty easy. You just need to have a technical guy who needs to put in his effort to learn that thing. And once he learns, he can definitely grow on a day-to-day basis on how he does the services. But then it's not a rocket science at all. So these are some of the examples. Reach out to us if you need more details on specific services, and we'll be happy to share and talk and educate to you. So finally, the bottom line is start looking at the whole cloud solution. It's not one product, right? So when you look at messaging and collaboration, we want you to look at infrastructure services, business apps, and we have the entire portfolio built for you. And that's our focus, right? We really are trying to get you every solution which we could across the globe to you in the local market with a complete solution where you don't have to focus on, hey, which vendor I should partner with, which one works, which doesn't work. We have tried and tested all of them. We have done the job of building them and onboarding them. But then we want you to take this and just start selling, right? So why choose Ingram? That's my last, again, few slides. We have 5+ years of investment in cloud, building the cloud ecosystem. We have cloud marketplace for your partner scale, cloud-focused employees, lots of tools and enablement. We have a regional cloud website, partner program, and many more things which will help you in terms of building your knowledge, like Cloud University. We are in the process of launching a mobile app which you can give it to your salespeople and technical people to gain their knowledge, and the CSP program. As a training series, we do all these different sessions, which falls into business sessions, sales, marketing, and technical training at all levels. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. This session is anyway recorded, so we will be uploading the recording so that you can refer back to these and check if you need to know anything. So if you are having any questions, feel free to ask. I'm happy to answer. All right, so if there are not many questions, I would like to thank all of you to attend this session today, and we will be uploading this recording and we'll notify you the link of recording so that you can view review and circulate it to your internal team. And once again, thanks a lot for attending and looking forward for the future sessions. Thank you.